moving to North Carolina. We're going to get this land, and I will be building a house.
It was never intended for me to know that Janelle was moving. I just felt like Janelle and I could have worked it out.
I'm leaving the place I've always lived. I'm leaving it all behind.
Cheers, cheers. New beginnings.
New beginning.
There's no other plan. This has to work.
Coyote Pass. What a gem. I mean, sure, it's got a view of the mountain, but beyond that, it's just meh. There's not a single decent plot of land to speak of, especially with all those trees getting hacked down. Are they planning to sell firewood instead of actual land? Just wondering. And apparently, we're all supposed to believe this place is some kind of paradise because Sol and Brianna are skipping rocks. Newsflash, that mud pond isn't a lake. Not even close. Is Kody just hyping it up before trying to unload it? Honestly, every time I imagine swimming in that pond, I get an itchy feeling. It's like the swamp version of a nightmare. And I just can't wrap my head around why they think a retention pond, full of prairie dog poop and whatever plague might be lurking, could possibly be considered an asset. Seriously, who's looking at that and thinking, yes, this is worth fighting over? If you want a swimming hole, go make one. But this nasty little runoff pond? No, just no. Paddle boats? Maybe, but swimming? Vomits in my mouth. It's literally a water runoff retention pond, and Kody acted like it was his personal lake. Oh, and don't even get me started on the infrastructure. There's none. Zero. Can you imagine the cost to level the land, lay down pavement, add electricity and water? It was maybe doable as some far-off dream if they'd stayed together. I don't know if Kody thought he was going to live in 4 separate yurts with 4 different wives, like he was channeling the Mongolian steppe or something. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel reality Nexus X. Seriously, another jab at Meri. Just when it seemed like there might be some kind of progress between her and Janelle, like, they're not besties, but they're getting along. Janelle strolls into Christine's Airbnb and suddenly decides to make a whole thing about how different things are now. Apparently, back in the day, they couldn't just waltz into each other's homes like they could with Robyn's and Meri's. A knock before entering. Shockingly reasonable. But of course, we're still hearing about Meri's rules from, 30 years ago? Really? I mean, I walk around half naked too, and I wouldn't want someone barging in unannounced. It's not that crazy. But instead of letting it slide, there's this little extra dig at Meri. Yes, Robyn too, but honestly, Meri's the one who comes to mind the second Janelle opens her mouth. It's a bit much, especially when Janelle's supposedly trying to get Meri on her side. Did anyone else catch that, or was it just me? Look, if we're talking complaints about Robyn and Meri, a simple knock before entering should not even make the list. In fact, besides my mom's house, I can't think of a single place where I just barge in without knocking. So that whole I need my space thing, totally valid. And then, oh, this part is rich. Christine of all people throwing a fit about Kody's one house idea. She was so upset about losing her privacy, about not having her own kingdom. That's hilarious, considering how much they've already exposed on camera. It's almost like they've forgotten they're literally airing their family drama for the world to see. But sure, they're the bigger person, right? Except, here they are, talking trash for the cameras, all in the name of storyline development. Then there's that lovely line from Christine about how she, David, and Janelle will all be together, with Kody and Robyn doing their thing. I'm not sure what Meri's gonna be doing. Ugh, gross. I get that Meri's been dealt a tough hand in this whole polygamy system. But that doesn't mean she hasn't earned the title of mean as a snake in recent years. It's been obvious from the start, and it just keeps getting worse. Does Christine really have to remind us of the teams every single episode? Seriously, it's getting old. Does anyone else get annoyed by her constant, cheerful insistence that she and Janelle will always be close? Janelle will always be my sister wife, she repeats, like we haven't already gotten the memo. Meanwhile, Kody, Robyn, and her kids are off doing their own thing, and Meri is just out in the cold. It's like, okay, we get it. There's a divide. It's clear as day on screen. But Christine has this weird excitement about pointing it out every episode, as if it's some big revelation. It's never just about what Christine and Janelle are up to. No, she has to throw in the extra bit about how everyone else isn't involved. It's almost like she's giddy about reminding us of the teams, which, let's face it, is getting more than a little passive-aggressive at this point. So my kids and Janelle's kids are doing XYZ because they'll always be close and do everything together. Plus, Janelle's always gonna be my sister wife. Robyn's family can do their thing, and I have no idea what Meri's doing. Yep, we hear you, Christine. Loud and clear. And then, in the latest episode, when she's moving into her new home with her new husband, somehow, again, she just had to bring up the teams. I mean, really? The timing couldn't have been more unnecessary, yet she does it like clockwork. Also, in the same episode, there's this totally producer-driven moment where Meri talks about how Janelle and Christine placed her on Kody and Robyn's team because they didn't accept her either, leaving her to feel totally left out. It's almost like a setup, isn't it? But let's be real, Janelle and Christine do love to act like they're putting Meri on Kody and Robyn's team. But honestly, where else was she supposed to go? Christine and Janelle iced her out, and Meri, at the end of the day, still valued her relationship with Robyn's kids. It's kind of petty, almost like some high school mean girl drama. Don't get me wrong, I get both sides. Meri probably felt betrayed when Christine left her after dragging her to Flagstaff under false pretenses. Meanwhile, Christine is understandably resentful of Meri for backing Kody after their fallout. But honestly, it's a shame these women can't just separate their relationships into pre-divorce and post-divorce. Because, let's face it, their dynamics before the divorce were just toxic, thanks polygamy. Kody, still hanging around, despite no longer making a dime off the OG3. He's probably been playing fast and loose with the group's funds, tossing them at cheap art projects, and maybe even dabbling in some questionable Bitcoin investments. Oh, and let's not forget the cash he should have been setting aside for his kids, who, were actually part of the show. Classic Kody move. But surprise, surprise, he's still in the spotlight. Why? Because even though everyone can't stand him, he's still making money, and that feeds his fragile ego. Honestly, I'm here for it. But here's the kicker. Kody's stuck. His income is tied to the show. When the inevitable cancellation comes, him and Robyn will have to start actually working for a living. With one kid in college, 2 more about to start, and a couple still in elementary school, yeah, Kody's financial future, not looking too hot. Look, the season's finally picking up, or maybe it's just the bar sinking lower in the plague pond. Who's to say? But I'll admit, last episode was kind of a highlight. Christine's wedding and her endless parade of pre-engagement party antics are finally behind us, thank God. Honestly, it's way more fun watching her and David try to set up an Airbnb. Way more real and way more entertaining. I can snack and watch at the same time, so that's a big win. She's also throwing just the right amount of mean girl energy, constantly reminding us she's the family's queen. All the kids want to be with her, not that anyone's really fighting for Meri. And oh, how happy she is for Kody and Robyn's soul connection. Less than insert sarcastic laugh here, greater than you can't help but watch her and think, is she the best or the worst? And honestly, maybe a little bit of both. At least she's stopped playing the I'm so in love with Kody game just to make him jealous. Then there's Janelle. Bless her heart. But watching her talk about being independent and responsible is both inspiring and painfully cringeworthy. She's over here claiming that she was the only one who could handle the family finances, and it's all Kody's fault that things are a mess. Meanwhile, her independent, logical, and responsible life plan? Giggling about 156 acres of flowers and hoping people just randomly show up. I mean, okay. She and Christine clearly don't talk much when the cameras aren't rolling, but they still make sure to throw in a little jab at Meri, because, let's be real, nothing gets the group riled up like a good Meri roast. And then we get to Meri. Honestly, she's kind of the star of the show in her own way. I want to be snarky, but there's too much actual growth in her segments. The way she preemptively admits to being weird when Janelle called her about legal action, it's like watching someone who's been knocked down enough times to finally get it together. You can feel the cold, calculating revenge she's brewing. She's the one with the real class and growth here. It's almost too satisfying to watch, especially when you know she's done playing nice with Christine and Janelle. It's all about taking Kody and Robyn down now. Not because they've wronged her, but because they took what was hers. As for Kody and Robyn, I really hate to say it, but that scene by the CP was the first time in years Kody actually looked like he gave a damn about being a dad. No weird, performative first ear piercings or trying to look cool in front of the kids. There was something almost human about it. You can see how desperate they are to protect their vision of the family, but honestly, it's hard to ignore how screwed up everything is. Kody looks like he's barely holding it together. Robyn's daughters seem like they're on the verge of tears every time they're on screen. Seriously, why are they still on the show if it's this much of an emotional strain? And then there's Kody in this weird internal struggle. He wants to give up CP because the original plan fell apart, but he just can't let go of that fantasy of living off the land with someone, anyone. It's like watching a man who's ruined his life and can't figure out how to be happy in reality. Deep down, he's a family man who just wants the attention. But at this point, it's painfully obvious he doesn't know how to get it without making everything worse. So yeah, the show's gotten interesting, but it's also kind of a train wreck. I can't look away though. Kody's favoritism towards Sol&Ariella is just so obvious, isn't it? Watching the episode where Ysabel's surgery comes up, and watching Christine and Ysabel go through that emotional roller coaster without him, my blood is boiling. It's almost like Kody's whole "I'm a father figure to everyone" act is for show. You know he would never have let Ariella go into surgery without him by her side, and he sure wouldn't have left Robyn sobbing alone in a car. So why this weird favoritism? I've got a few theories. First off, Kody's just special. He has this odd tendency to project his feelings about his wives onto their kids. When he was angry or frustrated with a wife, he took it out on their children. That much is clear. But then you look at Sol&Ariella. When they were born, the older kids were teenagers, doing their own thing. Suddenly, Kody's got these two little ones, practically worshipping the ground he walks on. And let's be real, that probably stroked his ego in a way only a baby can. Another theory. He treats the kids based on how he feels about the moms at the time. You can see it with how he interacts with Janelle's kids or even Leon. He reacts completely differently than he does with Christine's kids. And let's not even get started on Truly. She's barely a year older than Sol, and she never got the kind of attention that Kody showers on Sol. But hey, Kody's feelings about Christine were clearly not the same as those about Robyn, so that explains everything, right? Then there's the excuse he made about not going to Ysabel's surgery. He claimed it was because he couldn't handle being stuck with Christine. And let's be honest, if Ysabel hadn't been Christine or Meri's kid, he probably wouldn't have bothered. Same goes for Ariella. If she were Christine's daughter, she'd likely get the same neglect. Christine's kids have said it themselves. They were used to being ignored by Kody. And finally, it comes down to time. Kody didn't have the same kind of bonding with his older kids that he got with Sol&Ariella. With the first batch, there were so many of them, and they all had their own responsibilities. It was chaotic. But once they moved to Vegas, he spent most of his time at Robyn's house, actually being a dad to these two. They got the luxury of him being around more, and then the pandemic hits and boom, Kody's there all the time. He never had that with the others. So yeah, it all lines up. Kody's a weirdo, and Sol&Ariella got the full benefit of his undivided attention, while everyone else, not so much. Did anyone else catch Kody sanding the picnic tables in the most bizarre way? You know, that episode where they're all painting the tables with the kids. He kept grabbing random tools, sanding aggressively for a solid 5 to 10 seconds, then moving far away to start all over again with a new tool. At one point, he's sanding the bottom of the legs, where there isn't even any paint. Classic. It's like he's having constant manic episodes on camera, whether he's chopping down trees, trying to pitch his ideas to the family, or even just sanding a table. Oh, and it's clear everything was staged. If you look closely, the bottoms of the legs were totally rotted out. Guess they've really been taking great care of Paul's precious tables, huh? David is her true match, huh? Well, if there's any doubt, let me clear it up. It wasn't the wedding prep, the planning, the moving in together, or even his relationship with Truly, his own kids or grandkids. Nope. What really solidified it? The shrimp room. And not just the idea of it, but the absolute seriousness with which he pitched it. I mean, come on. And of course, Christine took it seriously too. Like, she didn't just laugh it off. She went full throttle, executed it in voila, shrimp room. I honestly can't even be mad about it because I had the same thought. So random, but hey, if he's into it, I guess that's what really matters. It wouldn't have been Christine's first choice, but she's on board because David actually cares about her dreams. That's the stuff. It's all you can ask for in a partner. Someone who's genuinely supportive and all in on your wildest ideas, even if they involve a room for shrimp. So yeah, it's clear as day. David's got her back, and honestly, she deserves every bit of it. Christine was right. Robyn never really lived polygamy. Not in the real, messy, everyone shares everything way anyway. Robyn's version of polygamy is like a textbook example of how to avoid actually practicing it. Remember last week when Kody dropped that gem about knowing polygamists who have wives in different states? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was talking about Robyn's family situation. Robyn's quote about her parents never leaving the honeymoon stage. Well, that's probably because they spent 80% of their time living in different states. If that's what you call a honeymoon stage, then sure, whatever. And let's not forget her first marriage, which was a total miss because they never took on any additional wives. I'm not buying the whole poverty excuse. More likely, Robyn had absolutely no clue what polygamy even looked like. Her mom and stepdad lived like they were basically monogamous. No other wives, no kids fighting for attention, no juggling relationships. Robyn never saw what it was really like. No sibling rivalries, no shared husband, no awkward sister-wife bonding sessions. Every other polygamous family we saw on the show lived together, and yet the Browns? They were more like the FLDS, keeping wives apart and letting the husband show up only when it was his turn. What a dream. Seriously though, how did Meri not see the red flags here? She must have known that Robyn's situation wasn't the usual. Meri grew up in a polygamous family where everyone, wives, kids, the whole gang, lived together in the same house. It was communal polygamy at its finest, but Christine? Her experience was different. In her chapter, she explains that while her father was a polygamist, his wives had separate homes, and each family was more or less on its own. But Robyn? She had no idea what it meant to really share a husband, let alone share the whole family dynamic. Sol with an axe, truly a masterclass in both comedy and chaos. While Kody is off rambling to the camera, acting like the center of attention, Sol is back there, doing his best impression of a toddler who somehow got his hands on a chainsaw. Seriously, I listened to a ton of podcasts to see if anyone else caught this moment, and Ace from LSBMND was the only one who noticed. That alone says a lot. It's like the family's hypocrisy was on full display. Remember how they treated Sol with kid gloves? Overprotected, smothered, and coddled like he was the most fragile thing in the world. Well, fast forward to this moment, and now he's unsupervised, swinging an axe that's probably heavier than he is. And then it gets stuck in a log, and Sol? He just starts yanking at it, trying to free it like he's auditioning for American Ninja Warrior with zero clue what he's doing. I couldn't help but imagine the axe freeing itself, and poor Sol just toppling over, axe still in hand, heading straight for disaster. You know the thought, holy crap, this kid's going to hurt himself. Then, of course, there's Kody's stellar parenting advice. Here, son, let me show you how to jam sharp tools into logs, while you're clearly still figuring out how to balance without tripping over your own feet. Classic Kody. Meanwhile, Ari's off doing whatever she wants, never listening, living her best wild child life. It's almost like they think not parenting is the ultimate freedom. I honestly think the original family setup worked because Christine did most of the heavy lifting with childcare, while the older kids helped guide the younger ones. But now, Robyn doesn't seem to want to raise kids so much as suffocate them with her own neuroses. None of her kids seem particularly well-adjusted or independent. They're basically pampered, babied until they reach the feral stage, and then it's like, good luck with that. If there was ever a case for nannies, this is it. Ariella is becoming a naturalist. I just watched the latest episode, and that ending had me dying. Especially when Kotex, yes, Kotex, starts talking about how Coyote Pass is giving him all these memories of teaching the kids to chop wood and skip rocks. Then he casually throws out, Ariella is becoming a naturalist. Like what? Is she suddenly a nature expert just because she's carrying around a handful of worms like any normal kid would? Somebody please get this man a reality check, because I can't even with that nonsense. As for Ariella, she's completely out of control, and all they do is sound frustrated and fed up with her. I honestly felt bad for her during the Coyote Pass scenes this week. The girl needs someone who'll actually take an interest in her, not just see her as a problem to be ignored. She desperately needs guidance to unlearn her feral habits, and it's clear no one's stepping up to help her do that. Poor Meri. I'm rewatching Sister Wives, and it's hard not to feel bad for her. She was clearly going through some rough stuff. Kody flat out denied their relationship. Her nest was suddenly empty, and she had to watch from the sidelines as the family prepped for 3 weddings for the older daughters. Meanwhile, she probably couldn't help but feel that pang of sadness knowing she'd never get to do that for her only kid. Can't blame her for feeling like an outsider, especially when Kody was too busy with his other wives to notice. And then there's the whole IVF situation, Kody basically beating Meri over the head with it while announcing he was planning on having more babies anyway, regardless of what she wanted. Really, nothing says I care like that. Honestly, their relationship is the perfect example of why getting a divorce is sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself. Meri was clearly angry, hurt, and it showed. Let's face it, when someone keeps telling you they're not interested and their actions back it up, it's time to move on. Life's not fair, but that doesn't mean you have to stick around and waste your best years on someone who isn't invested. One of the most memorable moments from my law school family law class was learning about how money earned during a marriage is considered community property. The idea is pretty simple. Even if one partner stays at home, they're still contributing to the household by taking care of the kids, managing the home, and generally making it possible for the other partner to go out and work. So naturally, that money belongs to both of them. Now, here's where Kody really gets interesting. I can't help but wonder how he justifies the whole "this is my money" mantra when he had 3 wives running around, juggling kids and households, literally making it possible for him to leave the house and do whatever it is he does outside of it. Is his money some kind of secret inheritance? Who knows? It'd be nice if there was more transparency around the finances in that household. But the best part, he kept saying it several times, almost like he was trying to convince us that we should believe it. Every time, I couldn't help but yell at the screen, "With what money you doofus?" Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.